In today's video, we're going to learn how to discern between the mind and the self. This is so that you can always separate your beingness from the activity of mind, and so that you're not unconsciously imparting your beingness to thought and emotion and unknowingly identified with the concepts that the mind projects, always keeping us restless. So, for the purpose of today's video, we're going to keep it very experiential because the more we stick to our direct experience, the simpler it is to implement these teachings and to realize what they're pointing to. So, how do we separate the self from the mind? This is the way that I see it in my practice, and I'm going to share it with you right now. Be here with me. Okay, the best way to proceed with this video is be here right now with me. Forget about later, forget about before, forget about even the need to understand. In your experience right now, the mind thinks. The mind thinks through words and images. Meanwhile, the self is aware. So the mind thinks, the self is aware. That's how we will discern between the two and not take one to be the other. Let's go to my screen right now. I'm going to share a visual with you. That's going to help you visualize this a little better so that you can actually see it in your experience. So if you take a look over here, I sort of separated it into two layers. Okay. The layer of mind is just a field of thoughts. The mind is not an entity or a thing that is doing thoughts or producing thoughts. Just the flow of thoughts is what we can simply call mind. It is just the activity, the operation of thinkingness. This thinkingness is seen from a place subtler than the thinkingness. You see what I mean? Like, you look at thoughts. The self is aware of thoughts. The self that is aware of the thinking coming and going is not thinking. Awareness just is. It is what you feel in every moment as the changeless sense of being. I am. Or even more simplistically, I. It is what you feel in this moment, in every moment, as this moment. What is it that we keep referring to as this moment within which thoughts keep coming and going? We say, oh, I had thoughts before, or I'm going to, like, there are certain thoughts that I have not had yet, and they're of the future. Then they come into the present, and then they go. They're part of the past. What is the present? What is this moment? It is this presence of awareness within which, when thoughts are here, momentarily they appear to be real, but then they pass. Yet, this moment, the presence of awareness, I, remains. So, this presence, this awareness, self, is subtler than thoughts. Thoughts are forms that you are aware of. Awareness is not a form. Self is not a form. Thoughts project ideas. Awareness is not an idea. It cannot even be grasped by ideas because thoughts can only project ideas about other forms. Ideas can only communicate in form. Language tries to make a thing out of everything. I hope that's making sense. Anytime language tries to make a form of the formless, it struggles. And yeah, we do this in our spiritual practice. We think about awareness. We try to create an image of awareness, but notice how an image of awareness is never awareness. Matter of fact, in this very moment, when mind creates an image about awareness, that too is a thought there's awareness of. But the awareness of that image, you can never confine into an image. So the self is aware in every moment, and its presence is what knows thoughts. It is prior to, subtler than thoughts. So if we go away from the visual for a moment, in your direct experience here and now, notice without you doing anything, thoughts will happen. Even if you try to stop thinking for a while, eventually thoughts will just happen. Thoughts are not you, thoughts are not the self. They just happen. They're just as spontaneously a part of of experience as the sounds that are happening in your experience, the sights that are happening in your experience, the sensations that are arising in your experience, the feelings. Thoughts are also just other experience, another part of experience. It's also scenery which is arising. But the unique thing about thoughts is that when they arise, we they claim subjectivity, meaning they appear to become I. So actually our sense of self becomes mixed with thoughts. Our sense of I am, our sense of existence, our beingness, the presence of self, the presence of myself becomes mixed with thinking. And that is the purpose of this video, to help this become clear to you so that you can discern between the presence of self, which is ever present and changeless, and thinking, which comes and goes. So the mind is an ever changing appearance witnessed by the presence of self. The presence of self is the place from where you see. It is the presence of you, yourself, you. You see thoughts coming and going. You see the mind operating in the form of language, words, or images coming and going, appearing and disappearing. In the moment it arises, it appears that I am thinking, but notice we attach I am to thinking. Let's separate I am from thinking and let thinking be an experience that comes and goes that you see. I am, or presence, is not an activity of the mind. It is not another thought. It is that which witnesses the arising and passing of all thoughts. And this is such a big revelation because you start to experience a much more vast depth to what you are. Because until now, this sense of beingness, I am, has just unconsciously being attributed to thoughts and all the ideas that thoughts project. So today, thoughts say, I am amazing. We are identified. Something happens in our life, and then this idea now changes. Oh, I am afraid. I am insecure. I am unworthy. And that idea takes on reality because your I amness, your sense of self, your sense of reality is mixed with it. And through this unconscious identification, we remain restless because we are ever changing with the mind. But the self is unchanging. It is forever unchanging. And in your experience, it is ever present as presence, presence of awareness, presence of self. So that is a huge part of self inquiry, a huge part of the entire spiritual path, learning to discern between I am and all other experiences which come and go. It's actually one of the main practices prescribed by great teachers such as Nisargadatta Maharaj. He used to constantly point to the I am. He said, focus on the I am, focus on the I am. All else will take care of itself. Ramana Maharshi, too. His question, who am I, brings your attention away from the changeful experiences which come and go towards the changeless presence of self. So, a large part of my spiritual journey has been this practice alone. And this is what I sort of dedicate this channel to as well. The practice of discernment between the changeless self and the changeful phenomena, between the seer and the seen, I and experience. That's why the question, who am I, is of such great significance. It points us away from the mind which changes inward towards the self, which is unchangingly ever present. So that is my advice to you today. In this way, through the guidelines we have talked about in today's video, discern between changeful experience, of which the mind is also just another one, another changeful experience, and the unchanging I, from where you see thoughts. Just know this, you do not think. You do not think thoughts. You are only the seer of thinking coming and going. Just this one way, just this one shift of seeing thoughts, how I see thoughts in my practice changed everything. Because previously I used to constantly go into meditation and like sit with this belief, I am thinking. And because I take myself to be the thinker, now I have to try to stop thinking. So if you take yourself to be the thinker, stopping thinking or stop letting go of being interested in thinking is near impossible. Because you believe that's who you are, it appears to be so important. But I started to see it in this way, that and see more clearly that, hey, thinking is an experience that I see come and go. I am not that. And I'm not even doing that. I appear to be doing that, but that's another illusion, which is the mind's idea. I am thinking is another mind-made idea, another thought-made idea, of which I am also the quiet, silent witness. So that's the way I started seeing my entire meditation practice. I don't need to stop thinking. I already am thought free, ever present. And thinking is an experience coming and going. And when I started to see it in this way, naturally, you are quiet because you're not identified with the thinking, meaning taking yourself to be the thinking. And therefore, the ideas that mind is projecting are no longer important, especially in that moment. And you're able to just revel in your beingness. You are the self that is aware. Here, now, always. Here and now is always. There's no later and always. Always is just the fact of what is. It's just beingness. It is the presence of self. Always is now. Now is always. What is now? It is your presence, in which all experience appears to be real for a moment and then it passes, being replaced by another experience. But it is not these experiences which are real. It is your self which is real. You impart your reality to these experiences. Now it's time to get it back. Now it's time to no longer impart reality to appearances. This is self-inquiry. And so as Nisargadatta Maharaj says all the time, when you are trying to find something or you're trying to achieve something, you need to keep it in your mind. You need to keep it in your focus. So if we are trying to realize ourself, discover our real self, then we have to keep ourself in focus. Don't identify with the mind which is changing or the experience which is changing, the body which is changing. Keep your attention on this sense of being. I am, which is forever unchanging in your experience. And that leads the way from illusion to reality, from confusion to clarity. So let me know what you think about this discernment process in the comments below. And if you have any questions, make sure to join our free support group over there. There are tons of resources to help you with your practice. We even do Q&A segments over there. Check out all the resources in the description box below. There's some that you might find really helpful. Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe if you're new here. I'm glad to have you. See you next time.